Everyone, this is a sort of like a note for me regarding taking user input in Rust. So this is from a course. This was a challenge. So there are a couple of requirements. So verify users against key predefined keywords. The keywords represent power possibles for options for a computer, right? So it could be off, sleep, reboot, shut down, hibernate, right? So these are the only fixed options, and there are a couple of couple of more requirements. So like if the user enters one of the keywords, a message will be printed in the console indicating which action was taken. And if a user types in shutdown message, it should display messages as shutting down, right? And if the keyword does not exist, it should show an appropriate error message. And there are some notes. It says like it should use an enum for the possible power states, right? A function with match expression to print out the power message, and the function should accept enum as an input, not a string. And use a match expression to convert the user input into a power state enum. The program should be case insensitive. And let's start. So first of all, what we need to do is like we need to since these are our fixed options, we need to create our enum, right? So I'm gonna enum power state. So power state could only be in off, right? And then sleep, right? It could be reboot. It could be shut down, and it could be hibernate, right? So these are the powers, right? Power states, right? And so our next option, our next thing is use a function with magic to print out the power messages, right? So to print out the power messages, but the function should accept enum as an input. So what we do is like print power messages, uh, print power message, right? And it is saying it should take a power state as an enum, right? And then it would print it, right? So we're gonna match, oh not match, match, right? Match on the power state, right? And what you can do when situations like this is like you can either do like power state and then like hibernate, like you can do like that. I mean, you can still take the help of the IDE by doing this, which is really cool. But another thing you can do is like you can just use the enum inside of here. So you can use power state and everything inside the power state. Now everything will be imported for you inside the scope. So what you can do now is like fill the missing arms, and it'll do like this. It might not be very helpful when you have like big applications, but for small applications like us, this could do. So this print power message should print out the power message based off of what they are doing. So we're gonna make a print line, and then we're gonna print our messages. For offs, we are going to be like turning computer off, right? And then for sleep, putting putting computer to sleep, right? And for reboot is like rebooting rebooting computer, right? And for shutdown is like shutting down computer. And for hibernate, we can just say like computer going going to hibernate, right? So these are the possible power states, right? And uh, so our next thing is we use a match expression to convert the user input into a power state enum. So we can use a function that takes a string and converts into a power enum, right? Power state, like a power state enum, one of these. But since this is very closely related to power state, we can make an implementation on that. So what the impl does is like impl just adds functionality onto your enum, or I think it does so for structs as well. And what we can do is like you can see there's one implementation over here. Now a common like practice for making new power states is just making a new like new enums is just like naming it new. So you can name it new, right? And what we can do is that we can take a string, or we can take a we can take a string as an input, right? And that would be of type borrowed string, because I think it will be borrowed. I hope it is borrowed, right? And it should return back, so we can type it. It should return back a power state, right? But this is good, but what would you do if a user types in something that's not one of these? it could be none as well, right? So one way to represent that is with an option type. So what we can do is option type of power state, right? And what it does, like, it could be some power state or it could be none power state, right? So we're gonna match on our string, right? And since this is a borrowed string, I think we are still, yeah, we're still borrowed string, right? And what we can do now is we can, I think we need to format this first. Hold on. What if the user like enters or like has a space or something, right? So what we can do is like let state equals a string dot trim. So what it does is like same as JavaScript, it removes all the white spaces, and you can go over here to lowercase so that it's not case insensitive, right? So that's why we're doing that. Now we can run something on it. I think we can still name this strong str. So in Rust, what it does, like when you name it str, the same name as the previous variable gets destroyed, and the new variable gets assigned, right? So str is of type string, as we defined over here. Trim returns a borrowed string, but lowercase returns a, you know, like a big string. I don't know what's the correct name for this. It's like an own string, right? So let's go and match on the string. Right? And okay, so there are multiple, you know, like possibilities of this, right? So user could type off, right? User could type off, and it could get like now what happens when you are returning an option is like you have to return some or none, right? So we can do power state, and we can return you know, off is off, right? And then you can go down here, you can return a sleep, right? And it could be power state, sum of power state, and it could be sleep, right? Same with reboot, it could be sum and power state, and we're going with reboot, right? And what about shutdown then? Shutdown, and we're gonna return sum of power state with shutdown. And if it's hibernate, we are going to be returning sum of power state with hibernate, right? And what this fat arrow does is like just returns it for now. If you return a curly braces, you could do more things with it. For now, I'm just returning it from here. So, and anything else, this underscore represents anything else for now, and it could be a type none, right? And oh, there we go, we immediately got an error. So it says mismatch type struct string. So this is of type string, but this thing is a borrowed string. Look at this. When you define a string like this, it is a borrowed string, but we're trying to match that with an own string. So what you can do is convert this to a borrowed string as well. Is just use the as str. It returns a string slice of itself, so you can match on them now. So there's no main function, that's why it's screaming like that. So we can return function main, right? And it's over here. So one cool thing you can do in Rust is like you can check if your program will compile or not. And to do that, you can go to console and write cargo check, right? That's binary for now. I mean, if you had only main.js, main.rs, you wouldn't be doing this. But since I have many binaries in this bin file, I can specify exactly which binary to check. So cargo check power state.rs, right? And then when you go like this, it says like it would compile, but there are a couple of, you know, like dead code, and we can eliminate the checking for dead code by writing -q. And now, oh wait, cargo. Oh wait, this cargo check. That's cute. That's a spin. Oh, there you go. It doesn't work. I think it doesn't work in check, but we can assume like our code would work because it didn't throw any kind of error. So let's go. So let's read in user input. So you know what? Let's first like give user something to type on, right? So we say like enter a state, right? Enter state. And now we are going to be reading user input. And to read user input, what we do is like we assign a mutable buffer of string, right? So this is a new string. This is an own string for now, right? it creates an own string. You can go over here and it's mutable. You can see the type over here. And what we're gonna do is like we're gonna import, not import, we're gonna use the standard library, right? We're gonna use the standard library and we're going to be using the IO module, right? And what the IO module provides us is a method called std standard in, right? And standard in has a function on it. Standard in, you can write a function on the standard in. It's called readline, and what it requires is you to pass a mutable reference to the buffer that it will attach to, right? And it also takes another like expect. You can, if it does not, if it fails to read the line, it can say like, hey, fail to read line, right? But this crashes the application as well, so that's up to you if you want to do this or not. But for me, what I'm gonna do is like I'm gonna go over here and write like let's just say let result, right? Let's call it result for now. So we're gonna match on result, right? And we're gonna match result dot is okay, right? This is a since this is a result type of a use as an error, it is okay is available on result types in Rust. So now what you can do is like fill alarms. So it is either like true or either false, right? So if it's true, what we're gonna do is we're going to print power message, right? Not print power message. Wait. It requires a power state. That means what we're gonna do is like we going to create a new, right? So if it's true, we're going to create. How are we gonna use this application? I never thought about that. Huh. Okay. So instead of using match over here, what we can do is like we can just check if the result is okay. If result dot is okay, right? This way it would be a lot easier. We could also use match, but it's the nesting is gonna like mess you up if you do so. Now what we can do is like print line over here. If it fails, we're gonna say like fail to read input, right? You can also do that with match as well. You can go with true or false, but for true or false, I like if else is my default go to. Why would I use match? I don't know what was going on with me. So when you go to result dot is okay, right? Now what we're gonna do is like we're gonna match on one more thing. We're gonna match on new power state, right? So we're gonna go power state. This is implementation on new, right? And we're gonna use a buffer on this, right? And it requires a string, but we gave it a small we gave it a big string, right? So what we're gonna do is like we're gonna do this. So there we go. So what we're doing is like we're passing it a string slice. We're borrowing the string. We're not, since it requires a string slice, we're not borrowing the string, right? So you get this, right? And this new returns an option, right? So option has two types. It gives you some or none, right? And the sum will give you a power state, while the none will give you nothing. So when none is returned, we can safely print line saying like invalid input, right? Because the user did not give us a valid one of these states. So what we can do when the power state actually does come is like we can print the power message, right, with the PS. So since it returns that, oh wait, I gave it an unnecessary parenthesis. That's me from the JavaScript world. Okay, there we go. So now when power state new actually gives us an option of some power state, it's gonna return print power state, right? And print power state, since it is a valid power state, it is gonna give us one of these. Where is this? It's gonna give us one of these, right? One of these print lines, right? So let's go. Let's check if it will compile or not first. So to check that, we're gonna go to our console and we're gonna run the same flag again. Cargo check. There you go. Nothing happened. That means it will compile. Our code will compile, right? So let's go to a coding screen once again, and I'm gonna walk you through. So we're using the standard libraries IO. We're importing it. So our power states are fixed. One of these fixed states. Our power state has a new implementation now. It can create a new of itself since it is very closely related to power state. Instead of creating a function on its own, I used an implementation on the enum itself. And now it takes a string slice and it returns a optional power state. And that means if the string is not one of these, it's going to return none, right? So we're matching, we're trimming the string that is provided, we're trimming all the white spaces and we are converting it to lowercase, so our program can be case insensitive. And now when it is off, it is returning power state off, sleep, reboot, shut down, hibernate, right? And if none of these, it's gonna return none. And our print power message is just gonna print out a message based on the enum, say based on the fixed enums. So we using the power state like this. It's just an example of showing you like this instead of using power state colon off or power state colon sleep. So I'm importing everything inside power state. That means one of these, and I'm matching the PS in this. If it's off, we're printing off, hibernate, just printing out a message based on the enum. So when we go to main function, right, and we're printing out iter state, and we're creating a mutable buffer string. This is just a simple own string, and result is going to be IO with that we imported input output, and we are using the method standard in on this, and we using a function. I think we can also call this a method. It's a readline method on the standard in, and it takes a buffer, like it takes a mutable buffer reference that it's gonna keep on going to, right? It's gonna make it, it's gonna put the input over here. So by the time this function runs, we are going to have a string of the user input in this buffer, right? And we're gonna check if the result is okay. If the result is okay, then we're gonna try to create a new power, like power state based on the user string. And since it is an option type, which we can verify over here, it returns the option type. So if if we get a power state, we're gonna print power message, which is a valid power state. We take a valid power state enum, and based on the enum, it's gonna give you it's gonna log some message to the terminal. And if nothing is given, that means like we do not have a valid power state. That means like it's an invalid input. And if the result is not okay, then we're gonna print line failed to read into user input. And that's how you can run here. That is a valid Rust code. So now what you can do is like cargo run that has been, and I'm gonna run my power state application, and now it's an enter state. So if I say shut down, it's gonna say shutting down computer, right? And if I go again, so if it's an enter state, if I give it something that's not valid over here, so it's like it was really this is like invalid input. And that, my friend, is a valid Rust application. Hope this was helpful, but it was, just know that it was not meant to be an actual coding tutorial rather than a video note for me to go back to. And thank you for watching.